everyone, it's Seji and welcome to another episode of A Book Chat With. Today I have the pleasure of being here with Ben Oliver, whose stunning debut book, The Loop, is coming out on the 7th of April. Hi Ben, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Well, so far good can be at this point. Thank
Yeah,
you so
yeah.
much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. So I finished reading The Loop last week, and oh my gosh, I loved it so much. It was so exciting.
Oh, thank you.
Could you perhaps talk a bit what about the book, what it entails exactly?
Yeah, The Loop is it's a young adult sci-fi thriller set in like a young offender's death row prison in the future, and the prison is run by artificial intelligence. Yeah, we follow the main character, Luca Kane. He's just turned 16, and he's already been in the loop for over 2 years. And his life is very boring. He doesn't get to see anybody apart from the prison warden, and every day is pretty much the same routine over and over again until something happens in the outside world, which means he has to escape the loop along with some other inmates. And yeah, it all kicks off from there, really.
Mm-hmm. And I was like really curious as to what your inspiration was for the story.
Um, a lot of things really inspired the loop. I would say fear was a big inspiration, sort of fear of the future and looking at technology where it is now and sort of thinking about where we might be in 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now. Technology is advancing at such a fast rate, and it's fantastic in most fields. Things like medical science is saving more and more lives, and that's great. But I don't know, quite often, especially humanity's drive or humanity's ambition is driven by greed a lot of the time, and I always think that always leads to negative outcomes, in my opinion. And I think of big corporations and their propensity for greed makes me think that technology may lead us down a dark path. So yeah, I think like good science fiction writers try to look where we are now and look where we might be
Mm-hmm.
down the road. And for an interesting book, you want to look to the darkest timeline, kind of, and that's what I kind of tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what's like the worst outcome of technology? And that's sort of what I tried. That's where the inspiration came from. Was like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the worst path we could go down with this, and where could it lead?
Mm-hmm.
Without trying to give too much away about the plot, because there's a
Yeah.
there's a yeah, I'm sort of dancing around that.
Yeah, because like I thought that was very interesting, like reading the first couple of pages and like getting to know Luca and like the situation in which he's in, and seeing that he's stuck in a cell and has been put there due to artificial intelligence, and it's like,
Mhm.
oof, okay, we already know like how like technology more and more helps us with things, particularly like, for instance, the social justice system, how
Mhm.
people used to, I don't know, like identify people, etc., etc., and like thinking about like how in the future it might even be possible to actually just completely use technology to sentence people. And that is like so incredibly scary. Um,
Yeah, that's like one of the, like I said, when I'm thinking about the darkest possible timeline, that was one of the things, is taking, I think I say it in the book somewhere, taking empathy and human judgment out of the justice system is a dangerous kind of path to go down. Somewhere it says something like that in the book, something like this is what happens when you take empathy out of judgment or something like that. And that's like you said, that's one of the things that I thought about in the book, is just taking human emotion out of decision making is a dangerous thing to do.
mhm. Yeah, and like besides like the technology aspect, there's a lot of like political, socioeconomic, and like ethical topics in the book as well. You see like how the rich people have like a quite nice life, and
Yes.
how a lot of the poor people are lacking and are in so many resources. How important was that for you to highlight these topics in the book?
Yeah, really important. I think when writing a book, obviously, my first goal certainly is to entertain. But as I was writing it, I kind of realized that what I was writing was something that hopefully holds a mirror up to modern society, and says, like, you know, the poor are exploited for the benefit of the rich. These days, it still I mean, it happens all the time in almost every country in the world. And the poor are often told, it's like that whole American dream thing. You work, everyone's told if you work hard, you have an equal chance of making it just like everyone else, but it's just not true. There's people born who are already 10 steps up the ladder, and the system is designed in such a way that it'll keep them at the bottom, keep the poor people at the bottom of the ladder. And that's something that I've always found infuriating. Hoarding of resources and hoarding of wealth is something that I hate, and it just seems to get worse year on year. So yeah, it was something that once I'd written the first draft, I saw that was a theme in the book, and the second draft I tried to bring that out a little bit more, and even to the point where experiments done on the prisoners inside the loop is for the benefit of the rich. It's generally not to advance things like medical science. It's just to benefit the rich. And I sort of really tried to hammer that point home with a lot of brutal aspects of the book. So so it was really important to me to talk about them.
And there's also this drug called ebb, which like the poorer people use to kind of escape like the realities of their lives. Like how did you come up with that name and just the concept to use like the drug as well in the book?
I don't know where I came up with the name for it, to be honest. It was one of those things I didn't have to think too much about. Often when it comes to naming things like even just characters or places in your world, I have to think about them for hours and days and try different. But ebb just kind of popped into my head and it worked straight away. So yeah, the name of the drug is ebb. But I don't know where that came from. But yeah, again, that's just holding a mirror up to society. As I see this, in the UK, certainly there's still major drug epidemics all the time. Heroin use in Scotland is still way up, and it is the poor people that seem to be the most affected by these things. So yeah, again, it's just sort of writing what I know, seeing what I see around me, knowing what's happened to friends and family in the past, and just putting that into the book and trying to highlight modern issues in a futuristic world, in a futuristic setting, and say these things don't go away. Because, for as long as there's been access to drugs, people have been using them, and they will, and I imagine hundreds of years from now they still will be using them, and they'll still be affecting lives and killing people. So yeah, just another sort of thing that I want to highlight and put into the book, just to say, people are getting affected by it, and they will continue to be affected by it because of the way the system is set up, and poor people are, kept down.
Yeah, I think also like the name, I thought it was like such a perfect name for the drug, because I don't know like the English name for it. Like when the sea, it's called like ebb and flood.
Ebb and flow in English. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it made me think of like people just trying to escape and like taking things away. So I don't know, I thought that was a nice metaphor.
Yeah, like I said, I have no idea where it came from. I was just writing, and I was like, okay, so there's people taking this drug. It's called ebb, and I was like, yeah, that works. And I never revised it. I never changed it. It was just always ebb. Yeah.
That's great. So there's so many characters in the book, and they're all very diverse. How did you come up with all these characters?
Again, they were just all sort of there. I started off with the idea was in my head for a couple of years. It started off as a almost completely different story, with just the idea of a person in prison who was told, we'll reduce your sentence if you take part in these experiments, these medical and scientific experiments, and he agreed. And that wasn't enough to start writing. It was just in my head, and I was like, yeah, I like that idea. And I wrote a few other things, and it was just sort of like I don't know, incubating in my mind. And then one day I started writing it, and the characters were all just sort of there. I don't know. As the more I wrote, I was like, okay, this character is this person, and this is what he looks like, and that's what she looks like. And I don't know, they're just all sort of there. I didn't have to. I don't plot, which is something people find quite crazy, but I just usually come up with a situation and just start writing. I mean, I guess I plot in a little. I'm usually about 3 pages ahead of myself, but no further than that. But like I said, the characters just appeared. I didn't sort of write down character sheets and character histories or anything. They were just sort of there, and the more I wrote, the more they became developed and real. And yeah, I don't know, they were just there, which was great.
Yeah, I can imagine. Was it harder writing the characters that stood further away from you, that are like so different from yourself?
No, I mean, I guess there's nobody that I took a major leap. They're all not based on people I know, but you know, there's elements of all people I know in each of the characters, and elements of myself in all the characters. I suppose that's just a natural thing that happens. But no, I didn't. I didn't try to like go too far outside of what I know, I think. So, yeah, like I said, they were all just there, and I guess there's elements of people I know and people that I've met, and yeah. So no, I didn't find any of it too character-wise. I didn't find any of it too difficult. I definitely, maybe some of the characters started off a little bit different in the first draft, and by the time I got to the end, they had changed enough that when I wrote the second draft, I was like, this character's developed a little bit, so I had to change some dialogue and some actions. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, there was nothing too. Like I said, I didn't take too much of a leap at anything, and I don't think.
Is there one though that you like relate the most to?
What, a character that I relate the most to in the book? Oh, don't know. I want to say Luca. Yeah, I'm the main character. I guess he's the one that I tell the story through. It's first person from his point of view. So I suppose he's the one. I guess that's why I chose him, because I relate to him the most. He's sort of a reluctant leader. Like, he doesn't, certainly in book 1, he doesn't want to be in charge or to lead this group of people who've escaped the prison. But he's sort of put in that position just through his actions. And I suppose I like to think that maybe that's what I'd be like as well. I would be like, I'll take the responsibility off me, give it to someone else. Like, he's probably braver than I am, but that's, but you know, as a writer, I want to, kind of writing who I wish I could be. So, yeah.
So moving back to like the technology, there are like a couple of devices, technological devices that are used that I thought were very fascinating, and also added a lot of horror to the book, especially like the heart device, of course, and the deleters. I was wondering, like, how did you come up with those things, because obviously they don't exist.
Yeah, with things like the mechanical heart and mechanical lungs, I was thinking about like you said, the society is broken up into essentially poor people and rich people, or alts and regulars, as I call them in the books, altered. And so I was thinking about the rich people, and they're known as the altered in this book because they've altered their like biochemistry, as well as like giving themselves artificial hearts and lungs and things, because, well, they're now no longer susceptible to things like heart attacks or lung disease. They barely get out of breath because these mechanical systems replace oxygen in their blood 1,000 times more effectively than human lungs do. So I think to get to that kind of thing, I was thinking, you know, what would the richest in society, if they could make themselves perfect, what would they do? And I think that's just like, I think that's just, I don't know, like after things like cosmetic surgery, where we're at, that's kind of the level we're at just now, where you can make yourself look a certain way through surgery. I guess they would start improving their health and their bodies through surgery, and their organs are the next kind of step. So yeah,
designer babies and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely part of this world. I imagine all that kind of designer babies. There's like they can sort of alter their DNA pre-birth to make sure they never get things like diabetes and any sort of diseases. So they're as perfect as they can make themselves, and they live to like 200 years old, and And it's all because they're rich. So poor people aren't afforded these benefits. They can't afford to have, the pre-birth cosmetic alterations, and they can't afford to have the artificial hearts and lungs put in. So, yeah. Again, it was just trying to look as far down the road in terms of technology as I could, and then it's just a device to show the difference in like the societal divide. Really, it's just another thing to say, look, they get everything because they were born into it, and we get nothing because we don't have those opportunities, even though we're told we do. We're told if we work hard enough, we can have these things. It's generally not true. Like that's.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so one thing that I didn't expect from this book was like how brutal, like how gory it sometimes was.
Yeah.
Which I love, so I was pleasantly surprised.
Good.
So yeah, there's quite a lot of death. Was it hard to let go of some characters in that sense?
Yeah, it definitely was. Certain characters who die in the book are characters that I'd grown quite attached to, I suppose, like, and characters that I really liked and would like to have written more of. But I think that makes their deaths more effective, I suppose. If I didn't care about them, or if the reader didn't care about them, I'd be like, oh well, they're dead, who cares? But I tried to make them like the characters were quite real in my mind, and I tried to put that onto the page, and I tried to make the relationships between other characters quite genuine, so when they die, it feels like a loss rather than just a plot device, if you know what I mean. Like that's what I've tried to do anyway. So yeah, I think it was difficult at times to especially write quite brutal death scenes for characters that I liked, but I think that's what makes it effective. I hope that's what makes it effective, is that I like these characters, and hopefully the reader will like these characters. So yeah.
Yeah, no, there were definitely some deaths where I was like, oh, I wish you just, like, I don't know, lived for 50 more pages.
Yeah, that's good.
But like, besides being like on the darker side, there's also quite some humor as well, and I thought that was like such a great balance, because it'd be quite sad to like just read about like people dying and how crappy
Yeah.
the world is. And like besides that balance, there's also a lot of action, like fast page passages, and also ones that are a bit on the slower side. Was it hard finding a balance?
Yeah, at times it was, but I think like what I would do is I sit down and I'd write as much as I could write in a day, whatever that was, like 10 words or 3,000 words or whatever. Then I'd go back and read it the next day, and I'd see what the pacing was like in comparison to what I'd written before. I'd try and read as much as I could and see if the pacing worked where it was. But then a lot of it's down to my editor as well, at my publisher, she's fantastic at knowing when the paces drop too much and when it needs to be slowed down. So yeah, I mean, no, I think there's no writer that. Oh well, I mean there is, but like most of the time it's a collaborative effort. Like I write the first draft, and then my editor comes in and says, "You need to cut all this out," and I'm like, "Oh God, okay." No, she says what needs to be cut, what needs to be added, when it needs to be sped up or slowed down, and so yeah. I mean, it's not just. I mean, a lot of it's down to my editor, so I have to thank her.
And was that process hard? Like having someone like read through your work and being like, and this has to be changed, or how about this?
No, I really enjoy that part of the process. I know a lot of people who hate it, and I know people who won't even let people see what they've read because they're so protective over it, and that's fine. But I think it's great to get somebody else's point of view on it, and somebody who's so good at what they do, like Kezia, my editor, to say. I mean, I know that she knows what she's talking about, so I trust her completely, and I can just see from the finished product that she's made the book better, and she was completely right. So she's like, I mean, there's big parts of the book that were cut on my agent as well when we were writing the first draft. She suggested big bits that need to be cut, and she was like, basically said, look, if you take this whole section out of your book, it doesn't change the story. And I was like, yeah, but I like that section. She's like, yeah, but it doesn't affect the plot, so it can be lifted out. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. It was just a fun scene, but yeah. So no, but having gone through the process, this is really the first time I've gone through that process, and I just see how much better they make the final product, the final book. Yeah, and I'm writing book 2 just now, and I've just got all the edits in, and I've just rewritten book 2, and yeah, it's 100% better from having outside input. So no, I'm happy to get advice from anyone, really.
And how was like the writing process at first, like because of course you start first on your own, like writing things out, and then like having to find an agent. How was that process?
Long. That process is very long. I think from the age of about 15 or 16, I've been trying to write books and try and get an agent, and it took me 15 years just to get an agent. So I mean, I definitely wasn't ready. Looking back at the stuff I was writing when I was like 15 up to about 23, I can see why it all got rejected. It was terrible. Like I was going back through my old emails recently and reading some early stuff that I'd sent off to agents, and I was like, oh god, it's so bad. But I think you just have to try and improve with everything you write, and I think that's the hardest part about being an unrepresented and unpublished writer, is you have to sink minimum 3 months of your life into writing something with no guarantee. And in fact, in all probability, you won't get picked up by anyone. And that's the hardest thing about being the early part of writing, is you have to really love it, because you're going to get rejected. You're going to sink so much time of your life into writing things with no knowledge, no guarantee that it's going to get picked up. So for me, that lasted 15 years of not getting picked up, and then I wrote The Loop, and I knew that it was definitely the best thing I'd written, and I'd learned something from everything I'd written before, and I think I've improved a little bit every time. And I knew that when I was writing The Loop that it was different. I definitely stepped up a bit, and then I just got the call. I got an email asking to read the whole thing, which was amazing, and then I got a phone call asking if I want to be represented by my current agent. And I said yes, please. So that would be amazing.
That's great. But is it because like you said, you've been writing for a long time? Is it hard also, kind of like letting go of like the work that you've like been putting so much effort into, and being like, okay, I don't think I can take this further. I need to like start something new.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially if you don't have another idea that you want to get working on. There's only maybe once that's happened to me before, where I'd written something, I'd really, really tried to make it as good as I could, and I still really like the idea. I know that it's definitely flawed. Like I said, I went back and read things recently, and I was like, it's good, but it could be a lot better. But yeah, like, the hardest part is if you don't have another project or another idea that you want to get stuck into straight away, because all you want to do is keep going back and redrafting. It can be hard to let go, but quite often by the time I finish writing something, I've got an idea for the next thing I want to write, and I almost want to get away from what I'm writing so I can get started on the new thing, which I guess is quite a lucky position to be in, to have ideas to just jump straight into. But yeah, I think if you don't have something to go into, it's really difficult to let go of what you've written. But I don't really have any desire to go back to the books I've written in the past. I think I can just see them now as part of the learning process. And there's maybe, like I said, there's one I could maybe go back to in the future and look at, but right now I don't have any interest in doing that. I've got other ideas I want to work on. So.
And with regards to The Loop, did you have to do a lot of research for it?
Not really, no. Little bits of things like nanotechnology and where we're going with that. But I guess the good thing about writing sci-fi set so far in the future is I can make a lot of it up and just say this is what's going to happen. Yeah.
Would you reckon that's like your favorite genre to write in?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess it's what I was most into when I was from the ages of maybe when I was about 14 onwards. I was really into sci-fi and loved it, and I think that's the ages where I really got like lost in books the most. That's the ages that books meant the most to me. So I think that's why I write the age group I do. I think I'm trying to write for myself when I was 14, trying to write the book I would have liked the most when I was 14. So yeah. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite genre to write in.
And what was like the hardest part about writing this book?
Hmm. I had the idea and I just started writing. Like I said, I don't plot, and I got quite far into it, and then I hit the middle, and it definitely slowed down a lot. There was days where I would write, like I would just sit down at my laptop and write about 6 words and be like, I don't like that, and then just delete it, and then write nothing, go back and just redraft my earlier chapters. Definitely slowed down in the middle. There's just moments where I had to wait for something to click and something to happen where I could just take off again and start writing. So, I mean, it's a bit of a generic answer, but the middle of the book was the hardest part to write. And yeah, that's the bit that ended up getting like taken out by my agent. So, well, one of those bits. But yeah, so I don't know. It took me a while to get that right, get the pacing of the middle bit right. I've always had a problem with pacing. Like I said, rereading my earlier books and things that I wrote, I just always want to jump straight into like the catalyst point and get straight to that. And yeah, I think because I'd done that, I'd got to it with good pacing in the loop, and then the middle was really hard to keep that pace up. And yeah, so I really needed my agent and my editors at that point to help me out, which they did. So
That's great. Like you say, you don't really plot that much, but how did you know that this was going to be a trilogy?
I knew by the time I was 3/4 of the way through the first book, I was like, there's a lot more to this and far too much for me to tell in the one book unless I want to make it a 200,000 word book or something. So I think I was like, so it had a natural end point for book one, but there's so much more to tell, especially with the villainy side of it, which I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there was a lot more to tell with their development. So it had book one was coming to a natural end, but there was just so much more story to tell. But because I don't plot, my publishers are saying, "Can you write an outline for books 2 and 3 so we can try and sell it to other worldwide publishers?" And I was like, no, I can't, because I don't really know what's going to happen. So I ended up writing something, but it's nothing like what the books 2 and 3 are going to be like. But it was just something for them to show publishers. But yeah, I didn't know. But I knew I have like little plot points that I know are going to happen, but I don't know the general idea. I don't know really. Yeah, so that was difficult to try and say, look, it's a trilogy. I know it's a trilogy, but I can't tell you what's going to happen in books 2 and 3. Yeah.
Yeah, no, very interesting to see like how the story unfolds. Because yeah, definitely at the end I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to wait. But yeah, so what was like the most fun for you to write?
Well, there is a sort of zombie aspect to the book. Not exactly zombies, but that aspect of it was really good fun to write. Especially there's a scene where Malachi, Luca, and Kina are running along the rooftops of this like homeless village on the outskirts of town. Just writing that kind of action. I love writing that kind of like getting chased down by monsters type scene. It was so much fun to write. And it's almost like my brain's going too fast for me to type it down. I'm like, I have to scribble down ideas so I don't forget them. And yeah, just like putting characters that I really like in peril is great fun. Probably not for them, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, that was actually one of my favorite scenes because I love like zombie flicks and stuff like that. So it really felt like they're being chased by like hordes.
Yes, yeah, that was really good fun to write.
So, like, besides being a writer, you're also an English teacher, right?
Yes.
How did you find the time to also write this book?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. Looking back, I don't know. It was difficult. I don't know, because teaching is the most mentally exhausting job in the world. Well, I don't know because I've not done all the jobs, but for me, it's a really mentally exhausting job. So just by the end of the day, I'm just. I don't know. So I don't know how I did it. This is my first year as a fully qualified teacher. So I managed to get most of the first draft written while I was doing my teacher training, which was also really exhausting, but I did have more free time. So most of my writing as a teacher has been editing and redrafting. and I've done it during free periods. I've done it. This year I've been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to work a few hours early so I can get some writing done, then lesson prep done, and then stay about an hour after work to write again. So so that gives me some time. But yeah, it's been difficult. It's been difficult.
I can imagine. How do your students like feel about like their teacher having like a book come out?
Yeah, they've been really great about it. Actually, they've been really like I tried to like keep it from them for a while because I didn't really want to try and like advertise my book during work. But they found out. Which was really nice, and then they were like asking if they can bring a copy in to get signed and everything. It was just really nice. Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah, it was amazing. And they're really excited. I think some of them have definitely pre-ordered it, which has been helped my pre-orders, which is great. No, they were really good about it and like asking about, well, they all think I live in a mansion and drive a Ferrari, and I'm like, that's not how it works. No, it's like I've not sold a copy of my book yet, so.
Not in a mansion yet.
Yeah, that's definitely coming though.
So, also, the movie rights have been sold as well, right?
Yes, they have, yeah. To Louise Sutton, who produced 2 episodes of Black Mirror, 2 of my favorite episodes of Black Mirror, which was just crazy. It was mind-blowing to find out that, yeah, she had bought the rights, which was amazing. Yeah.
Which episodes?
Metalhead, the one with like the robot dog thing chasing, the one in black and white, and the USS Callister. Which that's my absolute favorite episode of all time. I think it's fantastic. So, yeah, I've rewatched those episodes about 5 times since I found out.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool! Like, Black Mirror is like one of my favorite TV shows as well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So, we've come to like the quick fire questions.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're ready.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Who was your favorite childhood author?
Probably R.L. Stine. I really loved horror when I was young. I liked being scared. Well, I sort of hated being scared, and then the next night I would read it again. I'd read something like another Goosebumps book. This is when I was like 9 years old, and I hated it and I loved it at the same time. Like being terrified, it was great.
Did you watch the TV show as well?
Yes, I did. Oh, yeah.
I was far too young, but I still loved watching them.
Yeah, yeah, they were great.
Yeah. So, who's your current favorite author?
Oh, that's so difficult. I don't know. I would say Stephen King. That's a bit of a cop-out answer. It's a bit too easy, but I think I've read everything he's ever written, so I'll say Stephen King. Yeah.
Any favorites?
I love his short story collections, actually. I think he writes short stories fantastically. And he goes into sci-fi in his short stories more than he does in his long fiction. So, yeah, all his short stories. And he's got a new short story collection coming out in a few weeks. Yeah,
very exciting. Yeah, I love Stephen King as well. Like, Everything's Eventual. I think that's the short story collection, and like The Outsider. So good.
Yes, it's fantastic.
And what's the best writing advice you've ever been given?
Best writing advice I've ever been given. I think it's just finish something, get something finished. That was the thing that sort of changed everything for me, because I spent a long time starting a project, like having an idea and writing something, getting 20 pages in or 40 pages in, and then just being like, it's just slowing down, and then eventually giving up on it. And then a few weeks later, I'd get a new idea and then try and write that, and the same thing would happen. And I can't remember who it was or when it was, but somebody said, like, just sit down and finish something, finish a full-length novel, just to know what it's like, what it takes, and see if you've got what it takes to finish something. So I started writing. The first thing I ever finished properly was a Stephen King style horror story. And I started writing it, and the same thing happened. I was slowing down after about 40 pages, and I was like, I want to just not do this anymore. But I was like, no, I'm just going to finish it. And it was almost proving to myself that I could do it. And it took, like I said, it took months. It took maybe 3 months to get a draft of it finished. And it's pretty terrible looking back now, but it was a thing that kind of showed me, look, this is not impossible. You can do it, and you will get better as you keep working at it. So yeah, I think just finish something substantial to prove to yourself you can do it, and then after that you can start working on your craft and getting better, and with the knowledge that you can do it. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing for me anyway.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. Also, kind of like, it's quite easy to sort of like, give up when things get hard, and just like being
Yeah.
able to push through. I guess also is like a satisfying feeling, even though like it might not be like the best, but you've still done it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's. And I remember printing it off and just like holding it and being like, this is like it's a substantial piece of work, and I wrote every single word in this, and it makes sense, and that's cool. Like I said, it's not great, but yeah, it was just a good feeling to actually know that I could do it.
Yeah. And what's your favorite pastime besides like anything book related?
I play guitar, so I like playing guitar. That's quite fun. I'm not particularly good at it, but I enjoy playing it, so that's probably that. Yeah.
Any music genres you like to play most?
A lot of like early 2000s pop punk music. That's really what I loved, like Green Day and Blink-182. When I was growing up, I loved those bands. So, and they're really easy to play, so it suits me.
So what's a book you read in like the past year, and like the book that you enjoyed the most, and one that you're really looking forward to, besides the Stephen King short story collection?
One that I've read in the last year, Reverie by Ryan LaSala. I'm actually not finished it. About 3/4 of the way through it. It's really good. In fact, I've got it right here. Hold on.
Oh, isn't that with yeah. What's
Yeah, it's really
that again?
so it's about this boy who gets sort of accused of a crime in his town, and something happens, and people's reveries or sort of daydreams start coming to life inside this town. So it's about 6 different genres in one. It's fantastic. It's such a good idea, and it's so well written. It's brilliant. Yeah. So that's one that I've not quite finished, but I'm 3/4 of the way through it and absolutely loving it. Can't wait to. I'll probably finish it tonight. It's brilliant. And as far as things that are coming out, let me think. There's a book it's a bit of a cheat because I've already read it, because I'm in a debut writers kind of group on Twitter, and we read each other's work. Queen of Coin and Whispers by Helen Corcoran. It's just a really good book. It's a sort of a political intrigue fantasy book, and it's really good. It's going to be really good, I think.
Interesting. I'll try to keep my eye out on that one.
Yeah.
So, another question. If you had to modify one part of your body, what would it be?
Maybe my brain to focus a little better, I think. If I could. I suppose there are drugs for that, so I probably could do it, but I'm not going to do that.
It's not ideal.
No, it's not there. Maybe not. Right. But I don't know. I seem to like jump around from idea to idea, and maybe it's a good thing, because the idea has to be really good for me to focus long enough to write a book. So, but I don't know. Sometimes it's a bit annoying.
If I could modify something, I think I'd get like wings or something.
That's a much better answer than mine. I should have said wings.
I read this sci-fi book last year called, I think, Stronger, Faster, More Beautiful by Owen Ellis Dalton, and it had like it was like a novel in stories, and each story was set like a couple of years like further into the future, and at the end it's kind of like this question of like, how much do we modify ourselves, like when do we lose our humanity when we modify our bodies, and like at the end you have all these people with like wings and stuff. I was like, that's absolutely cool. Like I wouldn't change like my eye color or skin color, but like if I could have wings, I'd do it.
That's a much better answer. I should have said wings.
You can still say wings.
I'm changing my answer to wings.
Excellent choice.
Yes.
And so the last quick fire question is, if you yourself were to be stuck in the loop with 2 authors on each side, dead or alive, who would those neighbors be?
Oh, man, these are tricky questions. Oh, who would it be? Okay, on one side, can I just say Stephen King again? Is that, is
Yeah,
that
I
cheating?
mean, I'd say the same thing.
Stephen King on one side because he could. I mean, he could just tell me stories, and that way I'd be entertained in the loop. And on the other side, well, one of my favorite ever sci-fi authors is Octavia Butler, so maybe Octavia
Oh,
Butler on the other side.
oh,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to choose those two.
Excellent
That would
choices.
be good. We could collaborate on a book, but I think they're way ahead of me, so I don't
Who knows?
yeah, I'm
Like
not
a
gonna.
short story collection with all
Yeah, that would be
three.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so my last question is, well, obviously the book is coming out in a couple of days,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, there's like no way of like going outside now. But still, what are you like most looking forward to once your book is finally out and about in the world?
Um, I'm looking forward to other people enjoying it. Really, I just want to hear other people's reactions to it.
Mm-hmm.
Preferably just the positive reactions. But
You
I
wouldn't
just
go
want.
to Goodreads.
No, I'm gonna stay away from Goodreads. No, yeah, I want. I'd like it one day to be somebody's favorite book. That would even just for a little while. I mean, it doesn't have to be their favorite book forever. Just if it was ever somebody's favorite book, then I would be really happy. That would,
Yeah, that's like a great goal to have. Like,
yeah.
it'd be amazing. And I'm sure it will happen. And like, I can't wait to like see what's like coming in the future. Book two, book
Hmm.
three, the movie. I'm so excited.
Yep, me
Yeah.
too.
So yeah, those were all of my questions. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming on.
Thank you for letting me come on your channel.
It was like I had such a lovely time talking to you, and
Me too.
yeah, can't wait to hear what other people will think of your book.
Yes, me
So
too.
that was everything for a book chat with Ben Oliver. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.